Donna, Krech here. Okay, now this week's video is going to be very different from any you've seen. Last week's was pretty different. This one is different off the charts. I want to talk to you about your chicken and dumpling marketing plan. Now, chicken and dumplings just happen to be my most favorite food ever. From the time I was a little tiny girl to, well, now, many, many years later. So I'm standing here at my mom's house, and you guys have met my mom, and I'm standing over a pot of chicken and dumplings that I'm in the process of creating with my mom's help, which is, of course, the best chicken and dumpling recipe. And as I was thinking about putting these chicken and dumplings together, because I know I want the recipe recorded on video, I thought I'd love to give it to you, because they're delicious. And I know I've got a responsibility to teach you something about marketing. And as I'm putting the chicken and dumplings together, I realized that this is really about a marketing plan. Pay close attention. To make chicken and dumplings really takes a long time to do it correctly. You need to have a plan. So what we did here with my family yesterday, which was a Sunday, is we put a whole chicken on to boil, and we had that chicken, take that sack of gizzards out, we had that chicken on boiling, and we let it boil for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, until the chicken was so tender it was going to fall off the bone. Well, that's a good amount of time. And then you take that broth and that chicken from the heat, and you let it cool. Pull that chicken out and let it cool, so you can just pull the chicken from the bone. And then you put that chicken on a plate and stick it in the refrigerator, put the broth somewhere cool. A lot of us use our garage, or my mom has a patio room, and we set it out there. Now, that's a long period of time, a good 3.5 hours anyway. And that ties into a marketing plan, because you need to know with your marketing, what do you want to end up with? You need to think about it ahead of time so that you indeed do make a plan, not haphazardly go after a lead, or haphazardly throw something on your website, or throw a website together, or haphazardly make a Facebook post, or haphazardly put an ad on the radio or the television. But really think about, what do you want to end up with? We want to end up with really delicious, tender chicken and dumplings. So we made our chicken ahead of time, and we took the chicken off the bone, and put the broth somewhere where it would be kept cool so that we could finish today. We thought about ahead of time what we wanted to end up with. Great chicken and dumplings. I want you to ask yourself, do you think about ahead of time when you're heading into marketing, or making marketing decisions, or making your marketing plan for the year, better yet? Do you think about what kind of sale you want to have? What do you want to be known as the best in your community at? What do you want to really excel at? What do you want that label to be for you that's positive and tells the world what you're great at? What do you want to end up with? Think about that when you're laying out your marketing plan. Now, what I did tonight, which is a Monday, is I came to my mom's, and I said, okay, Mom, how do I put these together? She had me get a really big bowl, which I'll show you in a second, but then she had me take flour and put flour in the sifter. Now, I put about 5 cups of flour in, because we figured we wanted to make 10 or 12 servings, and that's how my mom's always cooked. Some of this, a little of that, approximate number of servings, enough to feed the dining room is how she'll say it. So we really don't do a lot of measuring. So it's taken a little bit of work to get really specifics out of her. But what she told me was to take 5 cups of flour, 5 cups, a specific, put those 5 cups of flour in a sifter, and begin to sift that flour. I said, well, why sift the flour, Mom? She said, because you don't want it to be lumpy. Your dumplings could be lumpy. And I thought to myself, aha, marketing again. You need to think about what kind of a lead you want. What kind of a dumpling do I want? Do I want a fat dumpling, a skinny dumpling, a lumpy dumpling, a tasty dumpling, a sticky dumpling? No, I want a perfect dumpling. So I want you to think about your leads. There are bits and pieces that go into making these dumplings perfect. You sift the flour. You have the right number of cups of flour. And after you sift that flour, you put in the right amount of baking powder, not baking soda. You don't want to make that mistake. And about 2 tablespoons, right, Mom, of baking powder. And then we put in about a teaspoon of salt. That could be to taste, so you can salt later if you want more. But it was very specific, the flour, and then sifting the flour, and then the baking powder, and then the salt. And then after I had all those specifics together, I'm going to tie this into a lead in a second. I came over here, and inside of this big bowl was my flour. And now I wanted to scoop off the fat off the top of those dumplings, off the top of that broth, and put it on top of this flour mixture, so that I could create a consistency that would easily roll out. And I just had to keep adding until I knew it was just right. I'll parallel that into marketing in a second. Then I took this dough and I patted it to look and see that it was the right consistency to make a dumpling. And I put it right here on a pre-floured rollout pastry mat so that it wouldn't stick. And then I rolled the dough out from the center out. So the dumplings were around a half an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch thick. And then I took a little knife, a little paring knife, and I cut them. Well, these are all very specifics to having your dumplings turn out just right. And what I want to ask you to think about is with your leads, with regard to your leads, with your marketing, think about specifics. You see, you need to know the demographic of what you want that lead to be. Male, female, economic status, married, single, but you need to know the psychographics too. What's their behavior? What do they do? What are they interested in? You need to know what benefits they want so you can go after that correct lead. You need to know where they are. Are they at a place you could go speak? Are they at a place where you could go give employee discounts, maybe for where they work? Or is there a wellness program they're a part of? Think about the kind of lead you want so that lead's qualified. I'm thinking about the kind of dumpling I want, so I'm doing exactly what my mom says according to the recipe. So I'm telling you that if you'll do exactly according to a perfect marketing lead recipe, you'll end up with a great lead. So those are the specifics. Now, here's the final piece. I came over to this pan, and my mom kept saying, is it boiling? Is it boiling? The broth boiling? The broth was boiling. I dropped all my dumplings in, one at a time, and I'm occasionally stirring them, make sure they're not sticking, watching the consistency, making sure the broth continues to boil. Sure enough, it is, and it is. And here's the thing. You need to know ahead of time what you want with your marketing plan. You need to think about these questions I've asked you. And then you need to know the specifics of the quality of that lead, so it's qualified, so it ends up where you want it to end up. You know, the thing you made your marketing plan for in the first place. But here's the key. You got to do the work. I have to pay attention to these dumplings. Got to stir them appropriately and in the right amount of time. I've got to watch the consistency. And if I needed to add any more broth, I needed to add broth. I need to season them. And I just need to really pay attention. And finally, I took that chicken that I told you I made yesterday, and I put that chicken in here with all these dumplings. So now the flavor is just blending together. And just tell you, it smells incredible. I'm kind of feeling like I feel when I know I got a good marketing campaign on my hands, and my whole team's excited. Now, I don't know if my whole team gets as excited about getting a good marketing lead as they would get about eating these chicken and dumplings, but it is exciting. And when you do the work and you pay attention to everything you've put together, cooking the chicken and bringing the broth to where it needs to be and putting those specifics into your dumplings and cutting them just the right size, and of course, having a master mentor, which we're going to talk to here in just a little bit, who's behind the recipe, ensures that you're going to succeed. Now, this may have been the most unusual explanation of marketing that you've ever had. But you just got to know what you want, pay attention to the specifics, and then do the work. Don't let all that previous planning and thinking be in vain. Do the work, and you'll end up with some great chicken and dumplings, too. So, Mom, I told everybody I'd let them meet the master recipe creator, my mentor, my secret weapon for success, and, you know, that's you, right? So why is it important to follow the recipe to make good chicken and dumplings?
Because if you don't put the right ingredients in, it won't be good. They won't be good.
So it won't turn out. Well, what if I put in the right ingredients, but I put in way too much flour, or I forget the baking powder?
Oh, it won't be right. You have to put the right amount if you want it to be cooked good.
So you just got to follow the recipe.
Yeah.
So you follow the recipe, you get good chicken and dumplings.
Uh-huh.
If you follow the right marketing recipe, like I'm teaching, people might end up with a successful business, right?
Uh-huh.
I think it's this way for life, too. I think if you pay attention to what you want ahead of time, like with children, like you know how we cook the chicken and everything ahead of time? I think if you pay attention ahead of time to how you want your children to turn out, if you raise them up in the way that they should go,
you plan it.
You plan it. And then all the specifics along the way. You make memories with them. You teach them great things. You do the specific things.
Right.
And then you do the work.
Oh, yeah, you got to do the work.
So sometimes the work is on your knees praying for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the work is giving them a big hug and telling them you're there for them.
And sometimes you write out a job for them to do.
You make a list of chores for them.
And they do it.
And they do the work too. And what ends up is you end up with a recipe for a family who's crazy about you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, there's your recipe for great dumplings, great marketing, and the secret to happiness in life and with your family too. Bye-bye.